Today on Tilted Top, we're going to be talking about the dumpster fire that is Wonder Woman 1984. Before we get into all the hate, take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Warning, there will be spoilers ahead. So Sean's going to take it and tell us a little bit about this movie.
It's pretty much in the title of the movie. We rewind to the 1980s as Wonder Woman's next big screen adventure finds her facing two new foes, Max Lord and Cheetah. Pretty simple.
That's very simple. But also for everyone listening, just the dumpster fire and the hate, that's just coming from me. You know, we watch the movie separately and we get together afterwards, so I don't even know what Sean's opinion is, going to be. But you pretty much know what I think.
Right off the bat and the video.
That's it. That's all you need to know. So what would you think overall about the movie?
Okay, so let's start with this. I'm typically the comic book guy, like a comic book movie guy. Pedro doesn't typically seem to like these movies.
Nope.
And I am actually a pretty big fan of the DCEU. Man of Steel is one of my favorite comic book movies. So I probably I'll probably lean a little bit more towards the light category than Pedro, but I just wanted to get that out there that I typically like these kind of movies more than Pedro does. With that said, I had to sleep on this movie. I was disappointed by this. I was disappointed by this movie. I liked the first one a lot. I felt like the first one worked a lot better because it was a very contained story. This one was just such a big story with such global implication, which I don't really like in my superhero movies that often. And for a movie that's based on a character that we've seen in present day in multiple films, something to the scale of the events that happened in this movie, I just had a hard time buying.
So your main issue then is with the story.
My main issue that's one of my main issues.
There's many.
Is with the story. I wasn't a fan of the whole wishing plot that they're wishing on a stone. I'm glad that they explained, because the gods are very well known in this and established in this universe. So the fact that she explained that it's created by a god and within the universe and stuff helped it make sense a little bit. But it was still pretty far-fetched for me to really get into.
So before we get into, because that comes a little later on in the story.
Yeah.
I want to talk about...
You want to slow down a little bit?
Yeah, we're going to slow down. You're getting ahead of yourself. I mean, you're going at the right pace because this movie is way too long.
Yeah. So, 2.5 hours.
Yeah. But I will say one thing I really liked about the movie, and I think a lot of people will agree, is that Gal Gadot is just smoking hot. But that doesn't make a good movie. Like, that's what I really liked about it. All the Wonder Women are just amazing. Just they're beautiful, women and everything. But when they say 1980s in any sort of movie, I expect nostalgia. I expect them to shove that in my face. And we kind of got it, but didn't. You can't just throw someone in a blue suit and be like, you're in the 80s.
I felt like I got slapped in the face with it. I felt like I got slapped in the face with cheesy 80s nostalgia.
I feel that way in the beginning when, like, the opening kind of scene, not the trial, but when they're in the mall. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, this reminds me of a mall in the 80s. Like, that hit hard.
That was cool.
Yeah. But then you're right. It was like, but that's the cheesy 80s. But then we're like, but the 80s kind of come off as cheesy when you look back at it.
It comes off as cheesy, but they just they lean so heavily into it. And some of the, especially during that, you bring up that mall scene. During that mall scene, some of the action shots were just so incredibly cheesy that I had a really hard time.
Which I would have been fine with it if they steered into that cheese. If the whole movie was like that. But it's like they tried to insert it and then they took it away to make it more serious and they inserted it. And, you're right. Like in my head, every time things were happening, I'm like, well, that's cheesy. That's cheesy. Well, that's a bit cheesy. And I, some parts I'm like, I'm in the 80s, and other scenes I'm like, I'm not in the 80s anymore. This
Yeah.
seems like nowadays time. And they just flip flopped. And I
Well,
think that was kind of a problem for me.
another thing I had, which at the mall scene was actually the only time that they acknowledged it, was in the current movies in Batman v Superman and Justice League, especially in Batman v Superman. They mention how Wonder Woman has been in hiding for 100 years, basically since the first movie. Or you haven't
Wait,
heard anything from her.
did she first appear in Batman versus Superman?
Yeah, that was the
That
first
was the
on-screen
first.
appearance. Or yeah, and then but at the mall scene, you see her take out the 4 security cameras. So it's like, okay, she's covering her tracks.
Yeah, kind of.
But the rest of the movie, she's just so out there.
Yeah, she's in her costume, just walking the
Thousands
crowd.
and thousands of people are seeing her.
Yeah,
And which kind of kills the whole illusion that she's, been laying low for 100 years, which kind of bummed me out a little bit.
yeah. But I did like the outfit. I like how it was the old school outfit, and it worked.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it. I'm like, oh man, that looks like an old comic book kind of stupid looking thing. I'm like, no, it actually looks pretty good on her.
I mean, it's basically the same outfit that she's been wearing for the new runs,
Yeah,
but a lot more colorful. They've been
Yeah.
bumping up the color basically every time they do a new movie. Because in Batman v Superman, one of the issues people had was the colors were very kind of washed out.
yeah. And did you find that the movie was predictable?
Yes, I was watching it with my wife Anna, and she said right before Barbara made her wish, she goes, "Oh, she's gonna wish for Diana's powers." And
Oh
then
wow,
it's
she was
go-
very specific on
yeah,
that one.
yeah. She before this even happened, she said, "Oh, she's gonna wish for Diana's powers, and then it's gonna go to her head."
But
And
did she
then
know
and
that
then
that was supposed to be Cheetah?
no,
No. Okay.
no,
Alright.
and then 10 seconds later that happened.
Yeah. So when I was watching it, and this is just a formula that a lot of comic book movies follow. When she walked in and she was like that clumsy girl, and they tried to make her look ugly by throwing glasses on her, which I don't see how that works. As soon as she walked in, I'm like, that person's going to be a villain.
Yeah. Well,
Immediately.
yeah, if you weren't like familiar with the advertising and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I
that's a
wasn't.
big clue. Which if you followed kind of the build up of the movie at all, you knew that was coming. But
Yeah. But as soon as she walked in, though, and was dropping papers, it wasn't even like I needed a little bit more than that. Nope. Instantly. She's going to turn bad. Mm-hmm. And not that she was a bad person. It's just like, that's just the formula that these movies, follow. And a lot of these things were predictable.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't predict that that the main villain was going to wish to be the stone, because I'm like, didn't we learn from Jafar? Like, you never ask to be the wish granting thing. It turns out bad.
yeah, I wasn't expecting that either.
No, but his performance, though. Actually, no. Let's rewind. Let's talk about Wonder Woman's performance. What did you think about her acting overall?
I thought she did great personally compared to where she's come. I feel like she's been improving as an actress.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I feel hang on. I feel like actually some of the kind of cheesier parts where she had to act didn't really work for me. But like the part where she was saying goodbye to Trevor later in the end, towards the end of the movie,
Yeah.
or when Barbara first kind of defeated her in the White House and she just had that look of defeat as she was just leaning up against the wall. Like, I really bought that. I'm not saying she was great, but I feel like I enjoyed her performance for what it was, basically.
Okay. All right. I, on the other hand, have a different opinion. And so I think she's a great actress when she's just being, was it Diana? That's her name, right? Mm-hmm. When she's doing that and just walking around in everyday clothes, just, doing her thing, I'm like, perfect acting. But when she's Wonder Woman, and full go and wonder on that woman, I'm not buying it. I don't see it. I don't see the acting really paying off. I don't believe that she's this badass fighter at all.
They really nerfed her in this movie for most of it.
But even the acting part, it's usually, to me, it was the facial expressions. Like, she's fighting and everything, and I'm just like, you look like you're trying to have a model face and always look pretty.
Yeah,
and it was like, I'm not buying that you're an actual fighter.
There's a few instances of that really bugged me.
Oh, did it bother you when she was fighting Cheetah going underwater and all that? And then afterwards, her makeup is like perfect and her hair is just like fully dried.
See, maybe that's one of the reasons why I liked the White House scene, is because when she was defeated, it wasn't perfect. Like, you could see her face was just beat. You know what I mean? But yeah, stuff like when she jumps out of the water and her makeup's perfect, or when she's giving that end monologue, she's just like, she looks like she was sitting in a fashion magazine.
Yeah.
You know? Stuff like that kind of bugged me for sure.
Yeah. And talking about acting too, I mean, the other major people are going to be, is it Chris Pine and Pedro Pascal? Those are the other two main actors.
And Kristen Wiig, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about her already. She was wearing glasses. I didn't know who she was. But
now you got to understand why people don't recognize Superman as Clark Kent.
That is all I thought. I'm just like, all right, she put the glasses on. She's ugly for some reason. And I kept saying...
it's just such a stereotypical trope. I've seen a handful of memes since then about that. You know, put her hair in a ponytail and slap some glasses on her and she's an ugly nerd.
And that's been going on for a while. But the whole time when I was watching it, as she was turning more evil, I'm like, wait till this girl straightens her hair. I'm like, it is over when
Let it flow.
Either if the hair gets straightened or it turns into that 80s like feathering with Heather Locklear or Heather Thomas, one of those looks. And I was like, that's when you know she's gone full evil.
Yeah.
Didn't expect all the fur because I'm not familiar with Wonder Woman.
Yeah, they went full Cats look there, huh?
Yeah. She wasn't a very good predator though. When she said she wanted to be like the supreme like alpha predator, I'm like, oh, she can be a badass. She was like a house kitten.
I mean, that whole thing happened so fast, you know?
Yeah.
Which I wasn't. And another thing that I didn't quite understand was how Wonder Woman could be underwater when that electricity hit and not be affected by it at all.
I thought that was just a power she had that I didn't know of. I had
resistant to electricity. I don't know.
Yeah, because because I'm like, the director has to know. Like the director there or whoever wrote the story has to be sitting there being like, yeah, she's immune to lightning or something.
I mean, if they would have just showed her struggling a little bit, like just like, oh, like doing something, I would have bought it more. Yeah. But she just seemed 100% fine.
Wasn't she in like a full metal outfit? I mean, I'm not a science major or anything like that, but I thought metal and electricity don't go well together.
Yeah.
And who has armor just sitting around? They're like, yeah, that's the greatest armor, but we're not going to wear that. We're going to put me in this mini skirt the entire time. Oh, yeah. I'd be wearing that armor the entire time, minus the wings. Cumbersome.
I don't know why. I mean, I guess it probably just was because was like the greatest warrior's armor, so it was probably more of a like. By the way, I think it's remarkable that armor fit her as well as it did for it being tailored to somebody else. Okay.
Magic. It expands. I don't even know. Do they have a metal in the DC universe that's like the ultimate best thing that just does whatever you want?
Yeah, they do. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but MCU has theirs. I know that there's something in DC like that. Like I said, I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But so what did you think of the other co-stars in the movie, their performances?
All right, so was it Kristen Wiig did fine, I think.
I thought she did great for her character.
For her character. No complaints. Chris Pine, I mean, he played who he was supposed to be, but I mean, I don't think his character was needed.
Did you see the first Wonder Woman?
Of course not.
Of course not. Okay.
We just jumping on this one because it's new. So I mean, I get he died, So I know like that happened and everything.
Hmm.
But I feel like I
In
know it probably
in World War One,
yeah.
like that time frame. Like,
Now
yeah.
I knew that'd probably be her greatest wish, and I'm like, okay, she's gonna want him back. I get why that happened, but it didn't make the movie any better. I think that made the movie kind of worse.
Okay.
But his acting, it was fine. It's Chris Pine. He's doing his thing, just trying to look good on camera. Yeah, that's been basically it.
Trying.
But he's got nothing on me. I don't know what you're talking about. But Pedro Pascal, though, terrible.
You didn't like it because I've
Oh,
heard some
God.
people think that he was the best part of this movie.
Okay, so it's very hard for me because I'm trying to differentiate if I hate his acting in this or I hate the character. Because they went full cheese on that character and a lot of
Could be the directing.
it could be.
Go big, go big, go big.
I guess because if anyone else was in his place, he'd probably, they'd probably get the same directing to be like, no, you need to be over the top.
Yeah.
You need to be this, you need to be
Maybe.
that. But I think, or maybe I'm just used to seeing him in The Mandalorian where, you don't see his face. And I'm just like, something's weird.
Yeah, right. I had to point that out to Anna. I was like, you know who that is?
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of Pedro Pascal, they actually filmed a Wonder Woman TV show pilot back in 2011, which he was in.
Oh, I didn't even know they had like a 2011.
Yeah, it was like, I forget the actress's name, but the girl, one of the actresses from the Friday Night Lights TV show.
Never saw it. I'm not going to know who that is.
Adrienne Palicki? I know I'm butchering that name.
Yep, no idea. But yeah, I think the movie ruined it for me when it comes to his character and his acting.
Yeah.
I don't think you could give it to the best actor in the world. It ain't coming back.
It was just all so over the top.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like
But-
he was playing a cartoon character.
Yeah.
It was almost like if this was an animated movie, like an animated feature, it would have been awesome. But it didn't translate well to live action.
Yeah, and then not everyone is over the top. That's what makes it so weird. It's like, all right, so Wonder Woman's not being over the top most of the time. These like the Barbara's not being over the top. It's really just Maxwell Lord, Pedro Pascal's character that's making it so over the top.
Yeah, I was also a little confused with what was going on with him and his son, because his son was always just by himself in the office.
Yeah,
Like-
bad parenting.
Well, it's like later on in the movie, the son is literally by himself in that office building. Why isn't he with his mom? Like Pedro Pascal's character is like traveling around the world, and this kid is still in the office.
Turns out he just doesn't have a mom. Like,
guess
that's really what it is. But yeah, so the
Which,
action.
which by the way, there is a lot of traveling in this movie.
Unnecessary traveling, but yes.
Yeah, a friend of mine texted me. He just said the first thing he said is like half the movie they're traveling.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
They could have. This movie should have been an hour and a half long.
You've
I
cut
don't
out
know.
the traveling.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and there were some scenes though when they traveled. And where were they? Middle East. Where
They're everywhere in this movie.
they're just looking for oil. Now, I guess we should probably talk about the story. The main villain is a stone.
Yeah. The main
grants
villain is a stone
one wish.
with a story that's not resolved.
Yeah.
Once he renounces his wish, there's no resolution there. What happened to this? Did the stone get formed back together? Like,
Yeah, and that makes such a bad villain because I thought that the god somehow is going to trick people to come back to life. Yeah, it's not a better story, but it makes more sense.
yeah, I mean, Maxwell, yeah, I mean, he wanted the power and stuff. He obviously him and Kristen Wiig are the villain, but I get what you're saying by saying
Yeah.
that the stone is kind of the main villain of the whole thing
Well, yeah.
because it's the thing that drives the whole movie.
Yeah, because really, when you think about it, do you see Maxwell as really like a super villain? Like, because I
Not a
don't.
super villain, no. No,
Yeah,
he's no Lex Luthor or something.
and that's where I thought they were going with it. But I'm like, no, this is just some guy who, instead of doing what normal people do when their business fails, you usually find another job. He took it to a whole new level, made some wish, one wish, but he had the stone, and he couldn't think of a better one wish
Then to become the
like,
stone?
Yeah, I know he wanted ultimate power because of how he grew up, and they were trying to cram that in your face. And I'm just like, I don't care how bad your life was. Like, why would he keep wanting to make these wishes when he could make one and he could get all the stuff he wants in that one wish?
I think I think they actually explain this pretty well in the movie, because his thinking on it is if he became the stone, he gets all the wishes he wants by fulfilling other people's, because he knows that if you make a wish, then you lose something.
Yeah.
It takes something from you basically.
But
But he knows that if he became the stone, he could balance that all out because like later on in the movie, that's what he started doing, is like, I'm taking your health, I'm taking this,
Yeah.
I'm taking, you know what I mean? To basically make him immortal, because he could take people's life forces and stuff at that point.
They just could have made it a little better.
He should have just wished to be a genie like Jafar.
Yeah, and so was his health was his most important thing to him then, right?
Towards the end of the movie, yeah.
No,
but
it's how I understood it. When you ask for a wish, you get your wish, and the stone, with its trickery, takes the one thing you value the most. But it seems like that concept kind of got thrown out the window, and they kind of rearranged it as it was going on, because then you see his health deteriorating later. And he's the stone, so he shouldn't be losing anything by granting other people's wishes anymore. So
well, maybe, but
so what was the main thing that was important to him? And if you say health, I'm going to be like, really? You didn't build up to that.
I don't.
If they took his son,
Even,
I thought they were going to take his son, because that was the most important thing to him. But then I realized he neglected that son. And I'm like, well, I guess not.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess they never really.
They did not explain the stone well enough.
They touched on it with every other character, I guess, but at least I'm not remembering what it was for him.
I just don't think they highlight it. Like with Cheetah's character, exactly what she wanted and exactly what was given away. Her what was it? What's the word? Basically how she was a nice person. That got traded for being, super powerful.
Yeah, she lost all of her kindness and like her humanity and stuff like that. And
yeah. But, kind of everyone else you don't know. And didn't his son make a wish? What did it take from him?
His son, that was weird, because his son said that he wishes to be have his dad's greatness.
Yeah, which did nothing.
And it showed the wind blowing around him, that was the indication that a wish was happening, like his hair would blow back.
Yeah.
And nothing ever happened with that. At least that I noticed. Maybe it's something I missed, but...
Yeah, I started like writing the story in my head. I'm like, oh no, he accidentally made a wish. And now I thought the kid stole his power.
That's what I thought too.
And now he has to do some trickery, because now his kid's going to, has this burden to bear. But that didn't even happen. So I just think it was thin. The whole story.
Yeah.
And then going forward on the stone thing again, just the stone part of the story, they're like, oh, you need to renounce your wish or destroy the stone. Mm-hmm. That's how you get out of it. And so how does this make sense? He wants to touch everyone to grant wishes, but all of a sudden he can touch everyone through particles in the air with some technology. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's a stretch, man.
This whole movie's a stretch.
The story is reaching. It's reaching so hard.
That's what I didn't like about it, which it reached too far.
Yeah. And what about the wind? So when Wonder Woman is in the end, she can't get to Maxwell, and this wind is blowing her away. And I'm like, when did he get wind powers?
That was him.
Why are all the wishes like being so powerful?
That was him wishing. Those were that was him collecting from all the wishes he was making. He was making it blow some wind towards her.
This is so stupid. And And all that buildup just to reverse everything that happened. It's like you wasted 2 hours and 30 minutes of my life just to undo everything that happened in this movie.
Okay, look. The story suffered, okay? I thought a lot of the movie was pretty beautifully shot. Some of the IMAX, because it's actually switched IMAX. Like, it's switched formation and stuff. And some of the wider shots looked amazing. Did not like some of the widescreen running shots. I thought that those looked kind of goofy because it seemed like they're doing homage to the 1970s Wonder Woman. Like, when they do a wide shot of her running, like really fast, I thought
Or flying, right?
The flying one wasn't as bad. I thought that all that kind of stuff just everything looked a little off though. All that kind of all those effects just looked a little too off to me.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think you just have to leave that in the past. Like, they try to sneak in so many little things that the original Wonder Woman did, and it was just like too many. Slow down. Sprinkle it in. Hint.
Especially with the running, there was a few shots. Like, there's one shot that was just like focused on her like this as she was running really fast down the road, but there was like nothing behind her, and it looked really cheesy.
So,
and here's one thing that I want to get this off my chest. Okay, here's one thing that really bugs me in movies is when there's these giant convoy of trucks driving down the road in the middle of nowhere, and then there's 2 or 3 or 4 little kids just playing in the middle of the road.
You ever been to a war zone? Maybe that's how it is.
They could see these trucks from miles away, right? And these kids, they're just playing in the middle of the road like nothing's happening as these trucks all barrel down on them. It's so bad.
Yeah, but what do you think, minus the kids? Because you're right, they do stupid things like that. The scene minus the kids, what did you think about it?
I thought the scene was pretty awesome minus the kids.
Yeah, so you were okay with her lassoing a missile and a bullet.
Bro, yeah. Riding a missile through the air, that's pretty badass, okay?
I mean, I thought it was a pretty cool looking scene. Again, I don't think the acting from Gal Gadot was that great when she was doing all this. But it was kind of one of those, it was a fun thing. It's like, oh, she lassoed a bullet, a missile, she's jumping all over, she's doing all this. None of it makes any sort of sense. Like,
the lasso was super OP in this. It was not like this in the first Wonder Woman, just to let you know. Her lasso was not like this in the first Wonder Woman.
Like, so what is it?
She wasn't riding lightning bolts or lightning or whatever. She wasn't flinging. Well, I mean, they kind of explained that she kind of like, when Trevor's talking, like she's hearing Trevor in her head. Oh, you got to catch the wind and the air in the certain ways.
But this lasso, I get it. It has powers, like that true power and everything. Yeah. But when I was watching, I was like, so it has the power of exposition when she had to explain the suit. And I'm like, that's kind of bullshit. I'm like, really? That's how you're going to fit in why the suit, you're going to lasso someone to explain it? I'm like, this movie.
I didn't mind that because it showed a little bit of the history of the suit. And that was actually Linda Carter also in the suit then, too, with her cameo in the end. Did you see the cameo in the end credits?
I did. I waited around. I'm like, I know they're going to do something.
Yeah. So I didn't mind that as much as some of the other like long monologues and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Did you hear that beeping?
I did hear that beeping.
All right, just for everyone, that is like the 30-minute talking mark. Usually we wrap everything up.
I feel like we got a little bit more to say with this one, though.
We have a lot more stuff to say. I'm not even close to being done, so we're just gonna keep rolling.
Just let it ride.
Yeah, let's just let this ride. All right, go on with what you're saying.
I don't know. I was just saying that I didn't mind the flashback scene in that instance.
Yeah. I did. I thought it was cheap. I thought it was a cheap way to explain some story.
So okay. So we both agreed that we weren't fans of the story, right?
No.
But what about the action? What you're kind of feeling overall the action just didn't quite work for you because of their acting?
So last thing about the story, I think this story could have been done better. The overall idea, a stone granting wishes, someone, making wishes, it could have been done better. The execution on this story was done poorly.
Okay.
Now moving on to the action.
I hang on, just to put a period on that. Yeah. I agree with you. I really wish that the whole thing was just toned way down, not on such a global scale like that.
Yeah, but
with all the nukes flying off everywhere.
Well, I mean,
and then them just vanishing. Like, this would have been major events. Yeah. This would have ruined so many people's lives. Were ruined. Yep. And did everybody have to renounce their wish, or just Pedro Pascal's character? Because
I guess you bring up a good point. If he never did it, then who knows what would have happened?
Yeah,
none of this happened.
It's like, because I forget, did they show before people were renouncing their wishes and then he did, or did they show him renounce his wish and then other people were renouncing their wishes too?
No, they were renouncing him a little bit before. Everyone was kind of renouncing at different times.
Okay, and then so that was kind of weakening him a little bit, and then he did. Okay, because I've heard like people talk about like, well, not everybody's going to want to renounce their wish. Like, what do they wish for a loved one to come back to life, like Diana did? Which, by the way, is super creepy that he took over somebody else's body and they're just walking around. They're looking at pictures. This guy is a living person, and they're just like, oh, he seemed like a cool dude. Whatever. No regards for his life that's now gone, with Trevor being there.
Yeah. What are the odds that he's going to jump into another attractive man's body? Also, what?
Well, but and then like she sleeps with him. Like, is she sleeping with Trevor? Or is she sleeping with this other guy?
She's like, all I see is you, and I'm like, that's just like, for movie perspective. So
like that whole thing, like there's no remorse for taking this person. Like Wonder Woman took somebody's life by bringing Trevor back. She's basically killing this guy by bringing him back. Yep. No remorse for that. Nothing. I had a problem with that.
But she saves everyone else.
Everyone else with a smile on her face, and they're winking at each other as she saves them.
Yeah. But that one guy, nobody cares about that one guy.
Look, one thing with the DCEU is a large complaint of it has been people saying they have not got their Christopher Reeve Superman. They're smiling, aw shucks Superman, right? I feel like they tried to turn this Wonder Woman into that Superman movie.
Maybe.
I mean, from everything to her going out of her way, besides the Trevor guy that she killed, out of her way to make sure every single person is safe. Yeah. All the way to the point where she's flying. Just like, I felt like I was watching a Superman movie.
Could she fly in the comics or the old show? I thought she had an invisible plane to do all that.
Yeah, from my understanding, there's some like comic book runs where she flies and like she gains, one of the gods gives her powers, or I'm not super familiar with her backstory.
Yeah, they're cramming too much stuff in there. They gave her the invisible plane. That's good enough.
With her making things invisible is something that had never been explained.
Yeah, they rushed that.
Yeah.
They're just like, I tried it once in a coffee cup. I'm like, you're bringing this up now?
Yeah.
You're telling me you stopped on a coffee cup?
It could have been like maybe throw that coffee cup scene in as one of the post-credit scenes or something, which could have been cool.
Yeah.
But no.
I mean, a lot of these powers should have just been on the next Wonder Woman movie. Slowly, like, dish them out.
Well, yeah, that's another thing, too, is if they made a modern Wonder Woman movie and she's figuring out some of these powers, great, awesome. But she's been in 2 established movies where she uses none of these powers that she apparently learned 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 35 years ago, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the comic book lovers are out there being like, how come she can't have an invisible plane? How come she can't do this? How come she can't do that? And they probably heard that and was like, all right, we're throwing it all in.
I just think their approach with these movies, these Wonder Woman movies, is they're going to just make the movie they want to make. Like, forget the rest of
Yeah,
everything that's been established.
yeah. I was looking at the director and writer.
Yeah, Patty
Her,
Jenkins.
yeah, her kind of credentials. She hasn't really done a lot, as far as other directors and
She
everything.
had a long break between what was it, Monster, and
Yep,
then Wonder Woman. Like
yep.
like she had a long break in between that, and Wonder Woman kind of brought her back. That and then she's going to be doing like a Star Wars movie or something. And
Yeah, she's gonna be doing Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and then yeah, she really doesn't have much. She has some shows where she directs like a
yeah,
couple episodes here and there.
but
But as far as it, she jumped from Monster to Wonder Woman, and I think it shows. It's one of those things where, I don't think she's doing comic book movies justice.
well, the first Wonder Woman is much better than this. Like the first Wonder Woman is a nice, compact, straightforward story. They don't try to do too much. The only real critique I had with the first Wonder Woman was the last battle scene was kind of like that big comic book thing. But before that, everything else was way more toned down.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Well, so do you
compared to
think they
this, the first
were?
Wonder Woman is better than this.
Yeah. Do you think they were trying to compete with like the Avengers? How it's such a grand scale, like everyone's getting snapped out of existence, so we need something big, and they're like, oh, nuclear war, we're going to be going all over the place.
I
We
honestly
need that in
don't.
DC.
I honestly don't know what they were thinking with this movie, because it's just. I don't know, man. This movie gives me a headache.
Yeah. Well,
I
okay.
hope not, because you can't compete with something. Because the Avengers thing that was built up over 20
Yeah.
odd movies. Like I don't think that. I think that they're just telling the story that they thought everybody would want to see, and that they thought worked. I honestly think that they felt like they made the best story that they could, regardless of any limitations, any rules, or anything. This is what they wrote, and that's what they made.
And and failed. I'm just gonna say it because I don't know anyone that's ever said, "Man, you need to watch this." I was looking through my Instagram feed and everyone was like, "This is trash. It's the worst movie ever." Like everyone was just hating on it.
I've heard a mix of things, but a lot of the stuff has been kind of more towards the negative. Now, this movie was certified fresh before it came out on HBO, and then it dropped below certified fresh when it's
What
already
did they expect?
certified fresh. Usually, when something's certified fresh, that means it can't drop below fresh,
Yeah.
but it did. With not by much. I mean, certified fresh is 70% Rotten Tomato score, and it dropped to like 68 or 69%, which is still a highly rated movie. That means, basically 7 out of every 10 people, like reviewers who watched it, liked it enough. That doesn't mean that they loved it, but they liked it enough to give it a positive overall score.
Right. Okay. All right. So before we jumped back in the story again, you're asking me about the action. Like, I mean, I know we could talk more about this story too, but
That's
it's like
fine. Yeah,
we know it. We got our point across. It's
Yeah.
bad.
Neither one of us, at least, like the story.
Yeah. The action, on the other hand, I think you get, what you expect with a superhero movie. It's like there's going to be a lot of CGI thrown in there because to get someone to do the stunts, no one's going to be lassoing a missile for real. Like it's just not going to happen. So it's filled with CGI. Things don't look perfect, especially when you CGI during the daytime. It seems like that's harder. It's a lot easier to pick out mistakes.
Yeah.
But the action was, it was okay. It didn't make sense to me, a lot of things that were going on. It's just like, all right, we have bad people with guns and, like machine guns, and they miss half the time. They hit her with like one bullet. And they don't shoot at Chris Pine for some reason. They're like, no, he has no powers.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he
That's
would
a
have
good
got
point.
smoked when he was on top of one of those like Humvee things. They would have turned around. He had been dead instantly.
Yeah.
And then I think the fight in the White House was okay.
I thought that was probably the best fight sequence overall.
Yeah. Yeah, because her powers were kind of going away, and the other girl was just like whooping her ass and everything, and she's saving people. There's
Yeah.
not as much CGI in there.
Not as much.
When you get to the end, there's a lot more CGI.
Yeah, another thing that kind of bugged me a little bit about talking about the fighting and stuff is when Barbara, her powers start gaining, right? And she wanted to be like Diana. So one thing I wasn't sure about, which I had a opposite reaction to this in Man of Steel. Part of the reason why people don't like Man of Steel a lot is because Zod, when Superman and Zod are fighting, Superman's basically just like they're just throwing haymakers at each other and stuff, right? But Zod's people, they're a little bit more, they're military trained, right? But Superman's been Superman for a day, and all he knows is his strength. But people don't like it because he's not like really fighting. But with this, one thing that kind of bugged me a little bit is Barbara, when she's fighting Diana, she's fighting like a trained fighter. Barbara has Diana has lived her entire life as a warrior. She grew up fighting, and even if she's fighting somebody with her same strength, I feel like she should win that fight simply because of her fighting skill. You know, she's a trained from birth. She's been a warrior for hundreds of years, and Barbara got her power yesterday.
Yeah.
And they're fighting, and Barbara's throwing they're mixing it up. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like Barbara's spent a lot of time at the gym with some trainers, and she knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah. I guess the only way they can explain it is like a blanket statement. I wish to be like Wonder Woman. And they're like, all right, we're giving you all her skill as she is now. Here you go.
That's the only way I can make sense of it, too.
I mean, it's not a good excuse, but it's the
Do you
only
get what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
Do you ever notice that in these kind of movies where it's
all the time?
Yeah.
People that get powers all of a sudden know how to fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know why they just don't. They show it that they're just strong and they just do like a haymaker, like windmill punch or something. They're so strong.
Yeah,
like,
which she kind of did a few times. She kind of just threw Diana around like a rag doll, but there was definitely some like skilled fighting in there. And then later on, when she became Cheetah, she was just flying around all over the place, like she's been Cheetah. You gotta walk before you run.
It's just like she didn't really get her wish, though. If you wish to be the apex predator, you don't lose that easily.
And she got electrocuted.
She should have never got electrocuted in the first place.
And then she was still cool after she got electrocuted, though. She was just hurt. She was just laying there chilling.
Which I don't think she
ever
announced her wish, right?
She turned back into Barbara, but other than that, we never saw anything that happened.
Yeah.
Which I saw a thing with the director saying that she did that intentionally.
Which part?
She left Barbara's story purposely kind of vague on how it ended.
In case they want to like bring her back or do something.
Probably,
yeah. All right, I guess that makes sense.
Sorry, we're kind of falling back into the story again.
Oh yeah. Action.
Yeah, action. I enjoyed most of it. Some of it didn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's just standard DC CGI fighting.
I mean, it's kind of comic book movies in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know what you're going to get, and that's what you got.
Honestly, no. It's...
Oh, no? You got less than what you thought?
I got less than what I thought. Because the action scenes were few and far between in this movie. And when they happen... See, in the first Wonder Woman, when the action scenes happened, they were just better. The fighting was better. I felt like the choreography was better overall. There was a few cool stuff in this one, but it wasn't the same. You know, I guess it's kind of hard for me to discuss that with you because you haven't seen the first one, but
no. But is it the same exact people that did? Okay, I just want to see if there's like an extra writer on it or something. It's different writers.
Oh, I had different writers?
Patty Jenkins wrote 1984, and then Alan Heinberg did the screenplay, and Zack Snyder did the story.
Okay. For 1984?
No, for the regular Wonder Woman.
Okay,
so Zack Snyder and two different people wrote it.
Wrote the first one?
Yeah. So, because Patty Jenkins is only credited for directing it. Other people wrote it, And that would make a lot of sense because when you go to the one we're reviewing, 1984, it was written, story by Patty Jenkins and
Jeff Johns.
Yeah, that person.
Yeah.
I was say Geoff?
No, it's Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns is like the biggest DC comic book writer. Like he's like the kingpin like DC comic book writer, like one of them.
Well, the other people did a better job from what you're saying. From what you've told me, the other story and movie was better overall.
Well, that's another thing. Like comic books and live screen adaptations are two different things. Like somebody could be amazing at writing comic books, but it doesn't always necessarily. They're not always necessarily that good at writing.
Yeah,
stuff for screen.
I think Patty Jenkins needs to stay in her lane and just direct and not write. That's what I'm getting from this movie. I mean, maybe she'll get better, but I mean, that's my opinion right there. That's what you got.
I mean, she wrote Monster. There's a long.
That's a whole different type of movie. Though.
It is
you could write one thing. Doesn't mean you can write other genres.
No, I'm just saying it's like that was a long time ago, but yeah, I will say I'm not a fan of the writing in Wonder Woman.
I mean, you don't have to agree as strongly with me, but I mean, that's where I stand. But I don't. One last. I got to jump back in the story again. The most emotional part of the movie, where Wonder Woman had to say goodbye to her man and renounce her wish. I was expecting some tears. I was maybe like my lips were gonna curl up and I was gonna like choke back something. Nope, nothing.
You were after watching that movie, you were expecting.
I was expecting it. I'm like, I need to be fighting back some tears because this is a big moment.
It might have hit you a little bit harder if you saw the first Wonder Woman, because their entire that entire first movie is the building of their relationship and stuff. Yeah. I'm not saying it would have, but it might have. For me, it did not bring me to tears, but I felt it a little bit.
I didn't feel anything. I was just like, all right, bye. It was almost like that. You'll see. I'm like, you'll see him next Tuesday or something. It's fine. We can bring people back from the dead. Something else will happen.
I mean, so the way that they brought him back, I don't hate. I just not a huge fan of the execution of it. Like I said, I had a huge problem. Not a huge problem, but I had a problem with them just taking over somebody else's life and nobody showing any remorse for it at all. They were joking around about it in dude's apartment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh, look at these clothes that this guy on. It's like, dude, you just killed him.
Yeah, but you're right.
We talked about that already.
It goes back again. Story. It goes back to execution was why it failed. But is there anything else that we haven't touched on this so far?
As far as the movie as a whole?
As a whole, yeah. Did we miss something?
Visuals, I thought were fine. They're good. There's, like I said, a few CGI stuff I just was not liking.
Yeah.
Sound was fine with me. Didn't blow me away or do anything special, I guess. I did like the Hans Zimmer Wonder Woman theme hitting in that final fight when she was like, all right, time to kick some ass.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you know that or anything, what that means. Nope. But it was her theme, her established theme in Batman v Superman, and it's nice to kind of see that come back in this movie.
So I think for sound, as far as mixing and all that, it sounded just fine. The scores sounded good, even though I didn't recognize where they were from. My issue was, I wonder why they didn't want to put more 80s music in there to get that 80s feel. It's almost like it's
because they were barely in the 80s.
Yeah, kind of.
No, I don't. I mean, I guess to get more of that 80s feel, like the music you're looking for and stuff, I feel like more of it would have to have taken place within malls and stuff like that. But they spent so much time in like Middle Eastern countries and in museums. Yeah, and
but
stuff.
Even when they're in museums and everything, like they could play some of the 80s music without the vocals, without the words, and then we
Yeah.
could have more of a, as background music. And I'm like, oh, okay, that song is from the '80s. Like they really, I don't know. It's like we're in the '80s, but we're not in the '80s. We're kind of in the '80s. We're not going to use the soundtrack for it. We're going to throw a mall scene in there, and we're going to give Chris Pine some '80s clothes. And it's like I don't know. It's like fake '80s. They really didn't steer into it hard enough. Don't name them
Yeah.
1984 and not give me 1984.
Yeah, I kind of feel that too. It's like you watch something like Stranger Things or something,
Yeah,
and like you feel like you're in that period. Like this is just, yeah, it all just felt very surface level, I guess is a good word to use.
yeah. But I mean, that's all I got. I got nothing else but hate.
Nothing else but hey.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, I've been pretty negative of this movie, but it's not my least favorite DCEU movie. And which I know, like I said, I'm the guy who pays a lot more attention to these movies. I have my whole ranking of the DCEU movies. I know you could probably care less about the overall, where this fits overall in that scale,
yeah,
but it's definitely for anybody who does care, which would be on my scale, Man of Steel is up top with like BVS Ultimate Edition close behind, and then
and then Suicide Squad. We know you love that
Suicide
movie.
Squad's definitely towards the bottom down there. This this is this is in the bottom half. I'll just say that. I don't know exactly where it fits for me, but this is definitely in the bottom half.
Yeah. So overall, would you recommend this movie? Would you tell everyone go ahead and watch it?
Okay, so what I was thinking after I watched this was I am glad that I did not have to pay movie theater prices to watch this movie. If I would have saw this in the theater, I would have been disappointed. But since I got to watch it on HBO Max, I did not feel I was disappointed by the movie overall, but I didn't feel like I was robbed or anything like that. I know it's pretty negative on the movie overall, but I would say that if you're watching on HBO Max, I would definitely give it a shot because it does have some redeeming qualities. Some of the action, some of the shots in general are great. It is a big spectacle movie. If you love big spectacle movies, you might like. Anna liked it overall. She liked it more than I did. My wife.
What? Okay.
Not. I mean, it has a 69% Rotten Tomato score. People like it. You know, they might not think it's not the greatest movie in the world, but you could definitely find redeeming factors of this movie, in my opinion. You?
Okay, so I definitely wouldn't pay to watch this in the theater. I'm glad that I'm leeching off my mom for the HBO Max.
I paid for my HBO Max subscription, and I'm still okay that I watched it.
But if I paid for my HBO Max subscription, I'd be pissed off.
You'd be
It is
pissed
not.
off.
I'd be pissed off. It's not worth. It wasn't worth my time to watch it. I took the sacrifice so everyone else can hear this and they can save their time.
You took the
Because,
sacrifice.
yeah, it's a terrible movie. If you're a diehard DC fan or a Wonder Woman fan, I'm sure you're gonna like it. But for the average person like me who just wants to be entertained by a movie, I would have rather watched like reruns of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia or something like
I
that.
mean,
I mean, like that's where I'm coming from this.
Yeah.
I think the director has a lot to learn about what makes a movie.
she
Not,
make
not,
a
not
movie. I mean, Monster's an
no, no, no.
award-winning movie.
My thoughts stopped as I said that. A comic book movie.
Yeah,
is
they're
what I'm
definitely.
saying.
See, that's another thing. Like you said, and maybe it's just the writing aspect of it because Wonder Woman 81, for a lot of people, is one of the better comic book movies in the DCEU. It's right up for me. You know, I was saying my list before. Wonder Woman's probably like 3 or 4 on that list of DCEU movies. The first one, 84 is damn bottom scale, but yeah, it might just be her fully understanding how to write because it's a completely different. Writing a
Yeah.
comic book movie is completely different than writing a very serious drama like Monster.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope she gets a lot better. I mean, she will. She'll keep cranking out movies and doing things, and it's gonna just get better and better for her.
I
But
mean, like you
I
said,
think
her
it's
next
fail.
one is that Star Wars movie. She's doing a Star Wars movie. So,
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that one goes. But then I'm not a fan of Star Wars either, so it's gonna be interesting. We're gonna just keep reviewing movies that I don't even like. I do like The
which are a
Mandalorian.
lot.
Yeah, I do like The Mandalorian. So there's certain things that can sway me. But I think that's all we have for this review. Up next, what do we have up next for the next one?
The plan is to knock out Soul in the next day or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have some high hopes for that one. So this is gonna
I've heard people say if you're going to watch one movie this holiday season, watch Soul. So that
Perfect.
right there, blowing my expectations out of the water.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. Unless you have something else to say
No, I'm good.
about the movie. All right. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, show us some love, and let us know what you think in the comments. We like reading them. We like responding to them. And I'll see everyone next time.